movie camera. The letter that arrived 10 years too late. They say time heals everything. But that's not true. Time doesn't heal. It hides. It buries memories under layers of ordinary days, until one small thing, one forgotten voice, one unopened envelope, brings everything rushing back like a flood. It happened on a Tuesday. A quiet, meaningless Tuesday. The kind of day where nothing extraordinary is supposed to happen, until it does. I came home tired, my thoughts buried in deadlines and bills, when I noticed something unusual in the mailbox. A single envelope. Old. Yellowed at the edges. No logo. No return address. Just a name written in fading ink. My name. And the moment I saw the handwriting, my heart stopped. It was hers. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It had been 10 years since I last saw that handwriting. 10 years since the night we both walked away without looking back. Her name. Her voice. Everything about her had become a memory I tried to silence. And yet there it was. A letter, as if the past had decided to show up at my door. The postmark read May 2015. 10 years ago. How did it end up here, now? Maybe it got lost. Maybe someone found it in an old post office drawer. Or maybe, just maybe, it was destiny playing one of its cruel games. I went inside, closed the door, and sat down at the kitchen table. For a long time, I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to open it. The other part was terrified to know what was inside. What could she possibly have written after all those years? I ran my fingers across the paper. The texture felt fragile, like it might fall apart if I opened it too fast. Finally, I took a deep breath and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. The handwriting, still the same elegant, looping letters, almost trembling. If you're reading this, it began. It means life got in the way before I could say what I needed to. I was angry when I left. Angry and scared. But the truth is, I never stopped thinking about you. I thought time would help me forget, but all it did was remind me of everything we didn't say. I could feel my throat tighten. You were right, she continued. I was too proud to admit how much you mattered. I kept pretending I was fine. I built a life, made new friends, smiled in photos. But every once in a while, I'd hear a song, or smell the rain, and suddenly, I was back there, with you. I stopped reading. My hands were shaking. The room felt smaller. The clock was ticking louder. The air was heavier. 10 years. And yet, in that moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. I thought about the last time we saw each other. The argument, the slammed door, the silence that followed. We both believed walking away would set us free. But maybe freedom isn't about forgetting. Maybe it's about learning to live with what you can't change. I kept reading. If I could go back, she wrote, I'd choose to listen instead of fight. I'd choose to stay instead of run. Maybe you've moved on. I hope you have. I hope life has been kind to you. And if, by some miracle, you still think of me, I hope it's with kindness. A tear fell onto the paper. It smudged the ink slightly, turning one of her words into a blur. I smiled at that. It somehow made the letter feel even more human, more real. At the bottom, in smaller handwriting, she'd written one final line. If you ever find this, I hope you've found peace. Peace. It was such a simple word. And yet I realized I'd spent years searching for it in the wrong places. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Then I sat there in silence, watching the rain slide down the window. Outside, the city carried on as if nothing had changed. But inside, something had. Maybe it wasn't forgiveness. Maybe it wasn't closure. But it was something close, something gentle, something that whispered, "It's okay now." Later that night I wrote her a letter. Not to send it, but to release what had been locked inside me for a decade. I told her I was sorry. Sorry for the things I said, and the things I didn't. Sorry for taking her love for granted. And most of all, sorry that it took me 10 years, and one lost letter, to understand what she really meant to me. When I finished, I placed my letter beside hers, tied them both with a thin ribbon, and kept them in a small box. Because some stories don't need an ending. They just need to be remembered. Time, I whispered to the night. You took your time delivering this one. And for the first time in years I smiled. Not because I'd moved on, but because I finally understood that some messages are never too late. As long as they find us when we're ready to listen,